Good afternoon. My name is Samantha Dobbins, and I'm an internationally certified equestrian instructor with a Bachelor in Equestrian Studies. Thank you for joining me today at the United States Eventing Association Region 3 Annual Conference. Today, we will be talking about the importance of the use of helmets and protective vests while riding. Throughout my 17 years involved in the equestrian community, there have been multiple examples of the importance of utilizing a helmet and protective vest while riding. As an internationally certified instructor, safety is always on my mind. The potential injury risk is extremely high in the sport of eventing, and even higher when safety measures are being skipped over. Horses are unpredictable half-ton animals that can cause serious injury or even death when improper or inadequate safety measures are taken. The most common safety measure that should be taken is wearing an American Society for Testing and Materials, or ASTM, approved helmet. This organization rigorously tests all equestrian helmets and ensures that they will withstand the impact of a fall. The first test that the helmet will go through is a drop onto a flat anvil from about 6 feet in the air. The next test that is conducted is when the helmet is dropped, again from 6 feet in the air, onto a very sharp corner of the anvil. This mimics the impact from a jump or a horse's hoof. A computer will then measure the shock from the fall in terms of gravity force. The most serious injuries occur with a number higher than 300 gravity force. Using a helmet that is not approved for equestrian activities could somewhat reduce injury if just a fall occurs. But if a kick or fall onto a jump occurs, a bicycle helmet will not provide any protection. The assumption that riding a well-schooled or bomb-proof horse does not require using a helmet could land in a preventable situation. For example, Sylvia Martin, a world-renowned equestrian and dressage rider, was coaching a lesson on horseback at a walk when her horse tripped and fell. Martin hit her head on the way down the horse's neck, and she had a seizure upon landing. Her husband reported that there was bleeding in her brain, but credited her helmet with saving her life. Without her helmet, this fall could have ended in a grave situation. A 2009 study found that 48% of injuries were head injuries. The minority of these injuries were using any form of safety equipment. 64% of the fallen riders said that the injuries they sustained were preventable. Nearly every rider said that if a helmet would have been used, their injury could have been prevented. From a study created by the United States Eventing Association, it was found that 78 participants said that they utilized helmets, 7% said they utilized both a helmet and a vest, while 15% said they do not use a helmet or a vest. Upon further evaluation, a majority of those who do not use any form of safety equipment only did so because it is their culture and how they were originally taught. On the other hand, those who utilize only a helmet say they do so because they know the danger of what could happen if they fall without using one. Many comments say they use a helmet because it allows them to focus on riding instead of worrying about what could happen if they were to fall. The most bomb-proof horse could spook, trip, or have an off day. If a rider does not use a helmet, the potential for serious injury is great. Traumatic brain injuries, or TBIs, are far too common in the equestrian world. 1 of 5 riders will experience a traumatic brain injury in their life. That is 20% of all riders. In another study conducted on equestrian falls, 20 riders were found to not be wearing a helmet, and 32 riders were wearing helmets. Out of those, there were 6 patients who had skull fracture that were not wearing a helmet, and 1 rider who was wearing a helmet. For the rider who was wearing a helmet, the fracture was an isolated fracture, while those who were not wearing a helmet had multiple complex fractures. This shows that injuries do occur while wearing a helmet, but 1 fracture versus multiple complex fractures is something to consider while not wearing a helmet. In the same study, there were 12 riders who suffered from intracranial hemorrhage. 10 of these riders were not wearing a helmet, and 2 were wearing helmets. The riders who did not wear helmets had multiple locations of hemorrhaging, including subdural hemorrhaging and contusion bleedings. 2 patients also had intraventricular blood collection. In a sport that involves 2 brains, riders need to use caution much more than they do. An article written by researchers High and Thompson analyzed the feelings towards the use of helmets. The results of this analysis were 3 common misconceptions: I can control risk, it does not feel right, and accidents happen. There are multiple issues with most of this type of thinking. The first assumption of being able to control risk has not taken into consideration the nature of horses. For most of history, horses were a source of food and a prey animal. Although horses have since been domesticated, they still have a strong fight or flight response. This means if a horse feels threatened or scared, they will either run away or try to fight. Under saddle, this is a large impact because sometimes horses will feel threatened and spook or run away, which can cause a fall. The next reason that it does not feel right also has no logical explanation. Although people may not think that wearing a helmet feels right on their head, or it is not socially acceptable, a helmet feeling weird on your head is still better than getting a skull fracture, internal bleeding, or a concussion. The final reasoning of accidents happen has somewhat more accuracy than the previous 2 assumptions. Horses have their own mind, their own brain, and their own opinions. Accidents are bound to happen. It is crucial for children to utilize helmets. These kids look up to adults, famous equestrians, and their fellow equestrians. If these kids grow up not seeing people wear helmets regularly, this will cause underutilization of helmets and protective vests. Because of the underutilization of safety equipment, this will cause a higher probability of a TBI. An article written by RidersForHelmet.com told a story of a woman who had to dismount her horse to catch her dog that ran away. While trying to catch her dog, it ran onto a train track. The train ran into her arm and side of her body. She ended up with several serious injuries, including fracturing her left wrist, 5 separate fractures in her ulna and radius, a compound fracture of her olecranon, part of her triceps were torn off, and scrapes and bruising on the left side of her body. What was the only part of her body that was not injured? Her skull, because of the helmet she was wearing after dismounting. This just goes to show that not only can a helmet protect against a fall from a horse, but also a collision with a train. Helmets are a great tool that helps to prevent or lessen injuries while riding horses. Another critical tool that can be used is wearing a protective vest. A protective body vest is a vest that has padding that protects the upper part of the body, including the chest, rib cage, abdomen, back, and tailbone. Because the vest protects the rib cage, it also provides protection for the vital organs such as the heart, lungs, and stomach. The United States Pony Club conducted a study to find out if the use of protective vests decreased the chance of falling. It was found that in a case of a fall, the vest decreases the chance of injury by over 50%. In a study conducted by a group of doctors, it was found that a majority of spine fractures occurred in the thoracic region of the spine. By utilizing a protective vest, the chance of serious fracture is suggestively reduced. Unfortunately, protective vests are seldom used in riding besides in the cross-country phase of eventing where they are required by the United States Eventing Association. According to a study conducted by researcher Meredith earlier this year, it was found that 16 out of 38 riders were killed because of injuries sustained to the upper body. These injuries occurred when a horse fell on the rider or the rider suffered a kick to the chest. It has been proven in a laboratory setting that when wearing a vest, the energy transferred from horse to rider was significantly reduced. Horseback riding is considered more dangerous than motorcycle riding, skiing, automobile racing, football, and rugby. However, the promotion of using basic safety equipment such as an ASTM-approved helmet and protective vests are lightly used. While the equestrian community continues to move forward, safety equipment needs to become more instinctive to use. As previously mentioned, horses have a mind of their own, and occasionally they have a different plan than the rider. Wearing a helmet and protective vest could greatly decrease the chance of injuries, hospitalizations, and even death. Next time you're teching up, don't forget to grab your helmet and protective vest. Have a great day and a great ride. Thank you.